In just one season, we've said goodbye to voices that moved us, faces that inspired us, and souls that left their mark on the world. From the grand stages to quiet corners of influence, some lived long, full lives, others were taken far too soon. Each one carried a story, a light, a legacy. Though they're gone, their impact echoes on, in memory, in music, in love. If someone in this tribute touched your heart, let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to honor their memory and stay connected to stories that matter. News 1. Jane Morgan, A Life in Fascination. From European cabarets to Broadway stages and golden records, Jane Morgan's century-long journey was a masterclass in poise, versatility, and musical elegance. Introduction. When Jane Morgan passed away on August 4, 2025, at the age of 101, the world lost not only a celebrated singer and Broadway star, but also a living bridge between the golden age of music and the modern entertainment industry. While her cause of death was not publicly specified, it is believed to have been due to natural causes, a peaceful end to a remarkable life that spanned over a century. To many, she will forever be remembered for her hauntingly romantic rendition of Fascination, a song that defined her career and captured hearts worldwide. But Jane Morgan was far more than a one-hit wonder. Her voice transcended borders, languages, and genres. Her story is not just one of celebrity, but of transformation, persistence, and timeless artistry. Early life and musical roots. Born Florence Catherine Courier on May 3, 1924, in Newton, Massachusetts, Jane Morgan grew up in a deeply musical household. Her father, Bertram Courier, was a cellist with the Boston Symphony Orchestra, and her mother, Olga Courier, was a pianist and vocal coach. Music wasn't just encouraged in the Courier household, it was a way of life. The youngest of 5 children, Jane began studying music at an early age, learning piano, violin, and voice. The family spent summers in Kennebunkport, Maine, where her older brother founded a summer theater, the Kennebunkport Playhouse. Young Florence acted in plays and musicals and worked backstage, setting the stage for a future in performance. After completing her secondary education at Seabreeze High School in Daytona Beach, Florida, she went on to study at the prestigious Juilliard School in New York City. Her focus was classical opera, but her path would soon diverge into the world of popular music. From Florence to Jane, a star is born. To support herself during school, Jane sang at nightclubs and hotels in New York, eventually catching the attention of band leader Art Mooney, who encouraged her to adopt a more marketable stage name. Thus, Jane Morgan was born, an identity that would soon become synonymous with sophistication and vocal brilliance. Her big break came when French bandleader Bernard Hilda discovered her performing in Manhattan and invited her to Paris to join his act. In the post-World War II years, Paris was a cultural haven, and Morgan quickly became a fixture at Hilda's upscale nightclub on the Champs-Élysées. She performed for European royalty, politicians, and celebrities, becoming fluent in French, Spanish, and Italian, and recording music in all 3 languages. Morgan's European phase would later define her as the American Girl from Paris, the title of her debut U.S. album. Return to America and mainstream success. By the mid-1950s, Morgan returned to the United States, signed by Cap Records, which aimed to repackage her European success for the American audience. It was a strategic move that paid off. In 1957, she released the song that would define her career, Fascination. Originally a 1905 French waltz, Valse Tzigane, the English adaptation, sung with warmth and restraint, catapulted her to international stardom. The song was later used in the film Love in the Afternoon, 1957, starring Audrey Hepburn and Gary Cooper, further cementing Morgan's place in pop culture. Over the next 2 decades, she released a string of hits including The Day the Rains Came, a #1 hit in the UK, with Open Arms, To Love and Be Loved, Love is Like Champagne, Happy Anniversary. She had an elegant, refined image, always impeccably dressed and coiffed, speaking multiple languages and carrying herself with European grace. In a time when rock and roll was beginning to dominate, Jane Morgan offered an alternative, romantic, polished, and timeless. Television and public appearances. Jane Morgan was a staple of American television in the 1950s and 1960s. She appeared more than 50 times on The Ed Sullivan Show, more than nearly any other artist of her time. She was also a frequent guest on The Perry Como Show, The Dean Martin Show, and The Jack Benny Program, The Merv Griffin Show, The Mike Douglas Show, The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. Her visibility on these platforms helped her reach millions of viewers, broadening her fan base across generations. Broadway and stage work. Morgan's success was not confined to recording studios or television screens. She also had a prolific stage career, performing in numerous Broadway and touring productions. Her credits include Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, Kiss Me Kate, My Bells Are Ringing, Anniversary Waltz, Mame, in which she succeeded Angela Lansbury in the title role. Her performance in Mame in particular drew critical praise and demonstrated her dynamic stage presence and versatility. Performing for presidents and dignitaries. Throughout her career, Morgan was invited to perform for 5 U.S. presidents, including John F. Kennedy, Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, George H.W. Bush. She also performed for French President Charles de Gaulle and various heads of state. These invitations reflected her status as a musical diplomat, a voice that transcended borders and ideologies. Personal life. In 1965, Jane Morgan married Jerry Weintraub, a rising Hollywood producer who would go on to manage Elvis Presley, Frank Sinatra, and produce films like Ocean's 11 and The Karate Kid. Their relationship was both personal and professional. Morgan helped behind the scenes in several of Weintraub's projects, including film productions. They remained married until his death in 2015, although they had separated decades earlier. Together, they adopted 3 daughters, Julie, Jamie, and Jody, and Morgan also became stepmother to Weintraub's son Michael from a previous marriage. Despite her public persona, Morgan was known to be intensely private, rarely giving interviews or appearing in tabloids. She chose instead to focus on family and selective performances in her later years, later life and retirement. By the 1970s, Morgan largely retired from the spotlight to focus on her family. She would occasionally return for special concerts, benefits, and television appearances. She remained involved in charitable work, especially in the arts and medical fields. In her later years, she divided her time between homes in California and Florida, and eventually settled in Naples, Florida, where she lived out her final years. In 2011, she received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, an overdue recognition of her contributions to the entertainment industry. She gave a rare public performance of Fascination at the ceremony, which moved many to tears. 100th birthday and final years. On May 3, 2024, Jane Morgan celebrated her 100th birthday. The milestone was marked by a retrospective event at the Ogunquit Playhouse in Maine, just miles from where she got her start in childhood theater. The celebration included an exhibition of her gowns titled Jane Morgan in My Style, and tributes poured in from fans, artists, and cultural institutions. In June 2024, she made one of her final public appearances, smiling and greeting guests quietly, the same way she carried herself throughout her career, with humility and class. Death and public reaction. Jane Morgan passed away on August 4, 2025 at the age of 101, reportedly in her sleep in Naples, Florida. While the exact cause of death was not disclosed, her family confirmed it was peaceful and natural. Tributes poured in from across the world. Her voice was silk and her spirit pure class, wrote one fan. An icon of grace, never loud, never scandalous, she just was, said another. Journalists, celebrities, and fellow musicians honored her legacy on social media, many quoting her signature lyric, "It was fascination, I know." Legacy. Jane Morgan leaves behind an enduring legacy. Over 30 albums recorded in multiple languages, 6 gold records, countless stage performances, a signature hit that still graces wedding dances, movie soundtracks, and retro playlists. A rare example of an artist who succeeded without controversy, drama, or compromise. Her influence lives on in singers who value melody, emotion, and lyrical storytelling. In an industry often focused on reinvention, Jane Morgan remained consistent, a calm in the cultural storm. Her century on this earth is not just a testament to her longevity, but to the kind of artistry that doesn't age. News 2. Joanna Carson, model, philanthropist, and Johnny Carson's third wife. Early life and modeling career. Born Johanna Ulrich Holland in New York City, variously reported as circa 1930 or 1931, Joanna Carson came of age in mid-century Manhattan. She married Tim Holland, a celebrated backgammon champion, and together they had one son, Joe, before divorcing in the mid-1960s. After the split, she reinvented herself as a high-paid fashion model in New York City social circles, gaining attention for her elegance, poise, and intelligence, traits that would follow her throughout her life. Meeting Johnny Carson and high-profile marriage. Joanna's life changed in 1971 when she met talk show host Johnny Carson at New York's exclusive 21 Club. As Johnny later remarked, he began flirting like a sophomore and maintained a ritual of calling her every day at 4:30 p.m. for a year. Their romance culminated in a surprise announcement during The Tonight Show's 10th anniversary, revealing they had secretly married in 1972. Their marriage lasted until 1985, when the strain of Carson's career, especially the show's move from New York to California, led to separation and divorce. The proceedings concluded with Joanna receiving a reported $20 million settlement, monthly spousal support of $35,000, a Bel Air home, New York City apartments, and artwork including pieces by Picasso. Life after divorce, philanthropy and theater production. Following her public divorce, Joanna retreated from the limelight yet remained deeply engaged in philanthropy. She became closely associated with Share Happily and Reap Endlessly, a Beverly Hills charity supporting abused or developmentally disabled children, and also served the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation in later years. She also established herself as a theatrical producer, notably on Broadway productions such as American Psycho, 2016, Beetlejuice, 2019 and 2022, and American Buffalo, 2022, demonstrating her lasting influence in arts and culture behind the scenes. Friendship with Truman Capote and authenticity. One of the most distinctive relationships in her life was with author and social figure Truman Capote, who lived for a time in a writing room at her Los Angeles home. Capote died there in 1984, and Joanna eventually auctioned much of his memorabilia, including personal items and manuscripts. She resisted titillating celebrity gossip in her memoir plans, valuing depth and authenticity over sensationalism. Death and legacy. In July 2025, at age 93, Joanna Carson passed away, though her passing was privately announced and confirmed by friends only later that month. The Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation paid tribute on July 30th, honoring her as a longtime supporter whose spirit embodied that of Elizabeth Taylor herself. Her funeral was held privately, among close family and friends. No public cause of death was disclosed. Available reports suggest it was due to natural causes given her age and lack of public health disclosures. Public reflection and cultural impact. Joanna's life invites reflection on celebrity, philanthropy, and reinvention. Grace under spotlight. Despite high-profile marriage and divorce, she remained dignified and private, earning respect in Hollywood and charity circles alike. Actress Ruta Lee praised her emotional intelligence and sensitivity, likening her to historical figures in grace and poise. Charity work. Joanna devoted decades to causes like Share and ETAF, representing compassion and a commitment to causes that outlast fame. Behind-the-scenes power. As a theater producer, she reinvested herself in storytelling and creative partnerships, helping bring award-winning Broadway productions to life well into her later years. Cultural intersections. Her friendship with Truman Capote marked Joanna as a significant cultural connector, someone who bridged entertainment, literature, and high society while maintaining her own ethics and resilience. Summary table. Detail information. Born Johanna Ulrich Holland, 1930-31, NYC. Early career fashion model, Manhattan High Society. Marriages: Tim Holland, son Joe, Johnny Carson, 1972-85. Divorce settlement, $20 million plus monthly support. Homes, art. Philanthropy share, Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation. Producing Broadway shows, American Psycho, Beetlejuice, American Buffalo. Death July 2025, age 93. Cause not disclosed. Natural. Legacy, elegance, discretion, philanthropy, arts leadership. Final thoughts. Joanna Carson quietly crafted a life of influence, far beyond the fame of being Johnny Carson's third wife. From Manhattan model to cultural patron, friend of literary greats, and respected producer and philanthropist, her journey was one of quiet resilience and authentic connection. Even in death, her legacy continues through charitable causes, theatrical achievements, and personal kindness remembered by those who knew her best. News 3. Jonathan Joss, 1965-2025. A voice for heritage, humor, and heart. Jonathan Joss was more than an actor. He was a storyteller, a cultural bridge, a voice for the underrepresented, and a human being who navigated life's extremes, from laughter on national television to moments of unimaginable pain and injustice. Born into a proud Native American lineage, he used his voice literally and figuratively to bring nuance, pride, and complexity to the portrayal of indigenous characters in media. Best known as the voice of John Redcorn in the animated series King of the Hill, Joss's career spanned film, television, music, and activism. His untimely death at age 59 by gun violence shocked the entertainment world and reignited crucial conversations about homophobia, harassment, and the failure of institutions to protect those in need. Early life and cultural roots. Jonathan Joss was born on December 22, 1965, in San Antonio, Texas, to a family with Comanche and White Mountain Apache heritage. Raised in a household that embraced both traditional values and contemporary American life, Joss grew up with a deep sense of cultural identity. His parents operated a small restaurant that doubled as a community hub, where flavors, stories, and laughter flowed freely. That background shaped his ability to connect with others and his later drive to portray indigenous characters with authenticity. A graduate of McCollum High School in 1984, Jonathan went on to attend Texas State University San Marcos. Although he did not finish his degree, his academic path opened doors to performance, and he soon discovered an innate talent for acting. He found early inspiration in the work of native actors like Chief Dan George and Will Sampson, who managed to break through an industry often dismissive of indigenous representation. Breaking into acting. In the mid-1990s, Joss began appearing in television and film. His first roles were largely in westerns and dramas, parts that, while often stereotypical, offered him a foot in the door. He was featured in Walker, Texas Ranger and the TV miniseries Dead Man's Walk. Casting agents were drawn to his calm presence, expressive eyes, and measured delivery. It wasn't long before he began getting noticed by bigger studios and producers. A defining role, John Redcorn. Everything changed in 1997 when Joss joined the animated comedy King of the Hill during its second season. The show was an offbeat slice-of-life depiction of suburban life in Texas, filled with satirical insights about American society. Joss took over the role of John Redcorn, a Native American healer who was entangled in a quietly comical subplot involving an affair with one of the show's main character's wives. While the character was originally created with a hint of irony, Joss infused Redcorn with dignity and subtle wisdom. He walked a careful line between satire and sincerity, refusing to let his character become a mere punchline. Over the course of 13 seasons, Redcorn evolved, both through clever writing and Joss's steady guidance, into one of the most beloved characters on the show. His performance was not only funny, but groundbreaking. Redcorn became one of the few recurring native characters in primetime animation, offering a nuanced portrayal in an era when indigenous representation was still rare and often problematic. Expanding horizons, film and TV roles. Outside of animation, Joss built a career as a reliable character actor. In 2010, he appeared in the Coen brothers' True Grit, followed by a role in the 2016 remake of The Magnificent Seven. His performances, though often supporting in nature, added depth to the stories he was part of. In television, he was featured in Charmed, ER, Ray Donovan, and Friday Night Lights. However, one of his most widely recognized roles was in the comedy Parks and Recreation, where he played Chief Ken Hotate, a sly and self-aware tribal leader. He managed to bring both humor and dignity to the character, becoming a fan favorite almost instantly. Joss's recurring appearances across 5 episodes showcased his comedic timing and further solidified his ability to challenge stereotypes while embracing humor. Beyond the screen, music, voice work, and entrepreneurship. Joss was also a talented musician and performer. He formed the Red Corn Band, drawing inspiration from his King of the Hill character, while carving out a musical identity rooted in blues and indigenous traditions. He collaborated with other native musicians and performed at festivals, community gatherings, and charity events. In addition to his music, Joss ventured into business. In 2011, he launched a signature spice rub brand, a project that reflected both his Texas roots and entrepreneurial flair. His voice talent extended into the gaming world as well. He lent his voice to characters in major video games like Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty, Wasteland 3, Days Gone, and The Walking Dead, Michonne. His distinctive tone and presence resonated across multiple platforms, personal life and private battles. Jonathan Joss's personal life was shaped by a series of deeply emotional highs and lows. He found love with Tristan Kernde Gonzalez, his partner and eventual husband. The two built a life together filled with affection, creativity, and mutual support. Yet, their relationship was not without challenges. Throughout the final years of his life, Joss and his husband faced persistent harassment from neighbors' harassment that reportedly included verbal abuse, homophobic slurs, and threats. These actions, often dismissed by authorities, created a climate of fear and stress that wore heavily on the couple. 25. Tragedy struck when a fire consumed the couple's home in San Antonio. The fire destroyed not only the house but also their belongings and 3 of their beloved dogs. Joss was devastated. He later spoke publicly about the incident, believing it to be suspicious and possibly tied to ongoing acts of hostility. Despite filing reports and making complaints, he expressed frustration that authorities failed to take adequate action. The final days, just days before his death, Joss made an appearance at the ATX TV Festival in Austin, where he tried to attend a King of the Hill revival panel. Although he was not officially invited, he took to the stage to voice his disappointment and to advocate for inclusion. Security eventually escorted him off stage, but his presence was unforgettable. In a social media video posted hours before his death, he expressed his joy in recording for the new episodes and his hopes for reconnection with fans. Then, on the evening of June 1st, 2025, tragedy struck again. Joss and his husband returned to the site of their former home to check the mail. There, they found the skull of one of their deceased dogs, an eerie and disturbing symbol. As they processed the moment, a neighbor approached. According to his husband, the man shouted hateful, homophobic insults before pulling a gun and firing multiple times. Joss reportedly pushed his husband out of the way and was struck in the neck and torso. He died on the scene. The suspect was quickly apprehended and admitted to the shooting. He was charged with first-degree murder. Outrage, mourning, and reflection. The reaction to Joss's death was swift and passionate. Fans, colleagues, and advocates across the country mourned his loss and called for justice. Many expressed outrage at the systemic failure to prevent the killing, especially after years of reported harassment. Critics pointed to the Texas legal system's reluctance to treat the shooting as a hate crime, despite clear indicators of anti-LGBTQ+ bias. Co-stars and showrunners from King of the Hill and Parks and Recreation issued heartfelt statements, remembering Joss as a kind, gentle man whose work touched millions. Friends recalled his dry wit, fierce loyalty, and generosity. Tributes poured in from actors, musicians, and native leaders, all united in grief and admiration. In August 2025, the revival season of King of the Hill premiered. The final episode of the season featured a loving tribute, still photos of Joss and John Redcorn, captioned, "In loving memory, Jonathan Joss." It was a quiet, powerful send-off for a man who gave so much to that world. Legacy and impact. Jonathan Joss leaves behind a multifaceted legacy. As an actor, he brought life to characters that challenged expectations and elevated native voices in mainstream media. As a musician, he infused his work with cultural depth and emotional resonance. As a man, he lived authentically, loved deeply, and stood courageously in the face of adversity. His death was senseless and tragic, but it opened a national conversation. It illuminated the dangers faced by LGBTQ+ individuals, especially those who are also people of color. It called attention to the failures of law enforcement to adequately respond to long-term harassment, and it underscored the need for more inclusive, protective legal systems. Joss's life, however, was not defined by how he died, but by how he lived, with compassion, creativity, humor, and honor. His work continues to echo in the laughter of King of the Hill reruns, the chords of his songs, and the growing demand for justice in his name. Conclusion. Jonathan Joss was a trailblazer who used every platform he had to represent truth, culture, and humanity. He worked against the grain of a system that too often silenced or overlooked people like him. In doing so, he created. News 4. David Roach, 1965-2025. A hard rock life cut short by aggressive cancer. David Roach, the gravel-voiced frontman of the Southern California hard rock band Junkyard, passed away at the age of 59 in early August 2025, after a swift and unrelenting battle with aggressive squamous cell carcinoma. The cancer, which had spread to his head, neck, and throat, took his life just 2 weeks after he married his longtime partner, Jennifer Michael Roach, in a ceremony marked by profound love and grace. A brief but beautiful farewell. In a final act of devotion, David and Jennifer were married on July 19, 2025, at the Fred and Pamela Buffett Cancer Center in Omaha, Nebraska. The ceremony, officiated by David's sister and attended by family and close friends, including his bandmates, was deeply emotional and full of tenderness. Surrounded by those who loved him most, David fulfilled a final wish: to become husband to the woman who had stood by him through every moment of his illness. Jennifer later described their wedding day as beautiful and perfect, calling David her best friend. For David, the moment was transformative. In his final hours, he shared that Jennifer had saved him at a time when his life felt like it was in ruins. He passed away peacefully at home in her arms, a fierce fight against cancer. David's diagnosis came earlier in 2025 and progressed rapidly. He had begun experiencing medical issues in January, and by March the seriousness of the illness was clear. The cancer was aggressive, moving through his body with terrifying speed. Throughout his fight, David remained resilient, often displaying his signature dry humor and gratitude for the outpouring of support he received from fans and friends around the world. Jennifer became his full-time caregiver, stepping away from work to be by his side as the disease advanced. A fundraiser launched in the spring helped cover growing medical costs, and David's fans rallied behind him, raising over $37,000 toward his care. David himself found ways to stay creative and connected, even selling handmade art plaque-style pieces and humorous roosters, to keep his spirits high and continue contributing. Despite his failing health, David remained deeply engaged with his music, his fans, and his family. His strength in the face of pain was nothing short of remarkable. From Texas punk to Sunset Strip rock. Born on December 10, 1965, in Dallas, Texas, David Patrick Roach was raised in Austin, where he immersed himself in music from an early age. He played in a variety of punk bands throughout his youth, including the Pagans and the Strapados, before making the move to Los Angeles in the mid-1980s, a city exploding with glam metal and hard rock energy. In 1987, David co-founded Junkyard, a band that quickly made a name for itself on the Sunset Strip. With a sound that blended gritty southern rock with the rawness of punk and hard rock, Junkyard stood out amidst the spandex and spectacle of the late 80s LA scene. They were often compared to contemporaries like Guns N' Roses, but they carved a niche all their own. Signed to Geffen Records, the band released their self-titled debut album in 1989. The record featured songs like Blues, Hollywood, and Simple Man, which would become staples of their catalog and cult classics among fans of the era. Their follow-up, Sixes, Sevens, and Nines, was released in 1991 and featured tracks such as All the Time in the World, but the shifting musical landscape soon dominated by grunge led to the band being dropped by their label. Junkyard disbanded in 1992, yet that was far from the end. Resurrection and revival. In the late 90s, previously unreleased material was issued under the titles Joker and XXX. In 2000, the band reunited, reinvigorated, and began touring again with a slightly altered lineup that included guitarist Tim Mosher. They released a live album, Shut Up, We're Trying to Practice, and continued building a loyal fan base. Over the years, Junkyard put out EPs and new material, including the 2017 full-length album High Water, their first new studio record in nearly 2 decades. David remained at the heart of the band, writing lyrics, commanding the stage, and keeping the band's unique voice alive through changing times. In 2021, they released their final single with Roach, Lifer, a defiant nod to his enduring connection to music. Throughout his career, David earned a reputation as a passionate performer and a dedicated artist. He wasn't flashy, but he was honest. His voice was raw and real, both on stage and off, and he never lost touch with his punk roots or his fans. Personal legacy and artistic voice. David Roach was more than a frontman. He was the beating heart of Junkyard, a songwriter, a storyteller, a loyal friend, and a generous soul. Known for his wit, his humility, and his distinctive style, he made a lasting impression on everyone who met him. His longtime friend and bandmate, guitarist Chris Gates, described David as a brother in all but blood. The two shared a musical bond that lasted decades and weathered breakups, reunions, and changing eras. Even as he faced terminal illness, David remained deeply connected to his community. He continued to joke, to create, to love. He found comfort in painting, crafting, and keeping his sense of humor intact. His resilience in those final months left a lasting impression on all who followed his journey. Love story at the end of the road. In many ways, David's relationship with Jennifer brought his life full circle. Their wedding was not a goodbye, but a celebration of the life they shared and the love that bound them. The ceremony was described by witnesses as filled with joy, beauty, and heartbreak. Two soulmates holding on to what mattered most even as time slipped away. Jennifer later wrote that every moment of their wedding day was filled with presence, with family, with music, and with tenderness. She described it as the most beautiful day of their lives. And even as David's condition deteriorated, their bond remained unbreakable. In his final interview, David said simply, "My life was a shambles. She picked me up out of the gutter." Their love was the kind that transcended the tragedy surrounding it. Legacy and final reflections. David Roach leaves behind more than just albums or concert memories. He leaves a legacy of authenticity, of perseverance, of living fully even when the days are numbered. He showed his fans that it's never too late to create, to love, or to find meaning in small acts of kindness. His music continues to resonate with generations of rock fans, especially those drawn to the unvarnished honesty that Junkyard brought to the Sunset Strip scene. His final months reminded many that the true mark of a person lies not in how they live when things are easy, but in how they rise when things fall apart. David Roach was, above all, a fighter, a creator, a husband, a friend. His story stands as a testament to grit, vulnerability, and the lasting power of rock and roll. News 5. Dame Cleo Lane, 1927-2025. Age 97, cause of death not publicly specified, presumed natural causes related to advanced age. Cleo Lane, born Clementine Dinah Hitching in October 1927 in Southall, West London, passed away peacefully at home in Wavendon, Buckinghamshire on July 24, 2025 at the age of 97. A statement from her children, Jacqui and Alec Dankworth, confirmed her death and requested privacy as the family grieved. Early life and musical roots. Born to a Jamaican father, Alexander Campbell, and an English mother, Minnie Hitching, Cleo was immersed in music from an early age. Her father often busked, fostering a love of performance in young Clementine. By age 3, she was singing at local gatherings. As a teenager, she worked various jobs, including as a hairdresser and librarian, while continuing to audition for music and theater roles. Despite early setbacks, she persisted. At 24, she auditioned successfully for the Johnny Dankworth 7 in 1951. With her birth name considered unwieldy for marquees, she adopted the stage name Cleo Lane, drawn randomly from a hat. In 1958, she married Dankworth, who would become both her musical partner and lifelong collaborator. Career and musical achievements. A voice across genres, Cleo's vocal prowess spanned an impressive range from contralto to soprano, and she became celebrated for her distinctive scat and storytelling style. She was the only female artist ever nominated for Grammy Awards in jazz, classical, and pop categories, and won Best Female Jazz Vocal Performance in 1986 for Cleo at Carnegie, the 10th anniversary concert. Her musical collaborations included luminaries like Ray Charles, Frank Sinatra, Duke Ellington Orchestra, Mel Torme, James Galway, and others, performing works spanning jazz standards, classical compositions, and theatrical song cycles. Acting in theater. Lane also made her mark as a stage actress in productions such as Flesh to a Tiger, Royal Court, Valmouth, Showboat, Julie, and later The Mystery of Edwin Drood on Broadway, earning a Tony nomination in 1985 for the latter. Legacy and education. With husband John Dankworth, she co-founded The Stables, a music venue and education charity in Buckinghamshire, becoming lifelong advocates for youth arts access. The venue continues their mission to foster new musical talent. Although public performances became rare in recent years, Lane continued to perform into her 80s, including occasional appearances with her children. Alec and Jackie, both professional musicians. Honors and recognition. Awarded an OBE in 1979. Made Dame Commander of the Order of the British Empire in 1997. Honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award at the British Jazz Awards in 2002. Received honorary doctorates and fellowships from leading UK institutions. Public farewell and reflection. Her children's announcement described her passing as peaceful and surrounded by love. The family asked for privacy as they mourned. The Stables venue also issued a statement, noting their profound sadness and reaffirming the enduring importance of music education in Lane's name. Critics and fellow musicians hailed her as one of Britain's greatest jazz vocalists. Remembrances often highlighted her genre-vaulting artistry, her velvet voice, and her integrity as a performer. Though her cause of death remains unspecified, at 97, she is widely believed to have died of natural causes. Signature milestones and timeline. Year or period event. 1927 born Clementine Dinah Hitching in Southall, London. 1951 joins Johnny Dankworth 7, adopts stage name Cleo Lane. 1958 marries John Dankworth. Begins long personal and professional partnership. 1960 to 63 births of children. Alec 1960 and Jackie 1963. 1970 co-founds the Stables concert venue and charity. 1971-85 leads roles in Showboat, Valmouth. Mystery of Edwin Drood, Tony nomination. 1970s-80s performs internationally. Iconic Carnegie Hall live recordings. 1986 wins Grammy for Cleo at Carnegie. 1997 named Dame Commander of the Order of the British Empire. 2002 receives British Jazz Awards Lifetime Achievement. 10 husband John Dankworth dies. Lane performs alone to honor him. 2018 onward. Gradually withdraws from public performances. July 24, 2025. Passes away at age 97 in Wavendon, England. Legacy and influence. Vocal prowess. Recognized for her 4-octave range, control, phrasing, and emotional depth. Genre-crossing artistry. Seamlessly blended jazz, classical, popular music, and theater. Cultural pioneer. First female to earn Grammy nods across jazz, classical, and pop. Champion of music education. Through the Stables, she helped nurture new generations of musicians. Role model and inspiration. Lane's journey from humble beginnings to international acclaim influenced countless performers. Even as a towering musical figure, she remained grounded, often speaking modestly about her career, attributing her success to perseverance and her love of singing. She once reflected that the real honor came not from awards, but from the act of singing and connecting with audiences around the world. Cleo Lane's story is one of extraordinary talent, versatility, and resilience. She shaped the sound of modern jazz and musical theater, while also shaping the lives of young musicians through her educational work. As sources across the music world recalled, whether singing standards at Carnegie Hall or performing for charity at the Stables, she did so with elegance, power, and unwavering musicality. Her death marks the end of an era, but her legacy continues in every note sung, every stage graced, and every life she touched. New 6. Camila Treviso, a rodeo queen and influencer who inspired millions. Age 22. Cause of death, rare bone cancer, Ewing sarcoma. Camila Treviso, known in Brazil as a beloved Reina del Rodeo and an influential social media figure, died on July 23, 2025, at the age of 22, after a courageous and public struggle with Ewing sarcoma, a rare and aggressive form of bone cancer. Early diagnosis and first battle. Camila was first diagnosed with bone cancer in 2016, at just 13 or 14 years old, following a leg injury sustained during a soccer game. A sudden and intense pain in her femur led doctors to perform imaging and a biopsy, which revealed a malignant tumor. She underwent chemotherapy and other treatments, and in September 2017, she was officially declared cancer-free. Renewed illness, Ewing sarcoma, strike again. In 2023, Camilla experienced new symptoms pain in her neck and back that led to further medical evaluations. Shockingly, she was diagnosed again with cancer, this time metastatic Ewing sarcoma, a rare and aggressive bone cancer that can resurface years after remission. She immediately embarked on another round of treatment, including chemotherapy and possibly surgery, though the disease progressed despite her resilience and active spirit. Public journey and role model in the making. Throughout her second battle with cancer, Camilla remained deeply committed to transparency and outreach. She used her Instagram account with over 30,000 followers to document hospital visits, chemotherapy sessions, hair loss, emotional lows, and also moments of hope, friendship, and connection with Brazil's rodeo and country music stars, such as Murilo Huff, Ana Castela, Lawana Prado, Gustavo Mioto, Zezé de Camargo, and others. She fostered awareness of Ewing sarcoma, encouraged blood donations, challenged stigmas around side effects, and shared candid reflections about life, mental health, and gratitude. By both words and images, she transformed her own hardship into a message of courage and positivity. She was affectionately known as the Rainha Inspiração, the Inspiration Queen, at major rodeo festivals in Brazil, the Jaguariúna Rodeo Festival in 2024, and the Festa do Peão de Americana in 2025, an honor given to those who embody perseverance and hope. Final days and farewell letter. Camilla's family announced her passing on the morning of July 23, 2025, via her Instagram account. They honored her wish to publish a letter that she had written in advance, an emotional final message to her followers and supporters. In her letter, Camilla began, "I know this is not an easy time, but I wrote this and asked for it to be posted." She expressed thankfulness to all who had walked through her life, her followers, friends, supporters, prayer groups, and family, acknowledging each moment shared as precious. Reflecting on her mission, she wrote, "I have already fulfilled my role here on earth, which was to inspire you to live every moment no matter what you face." Her letter urged readers to treasure time, live fully, not give in to negativity, and remember that life is too short not to appreciate it. She intended her profile to remain active so others could always remember who I was and everything I lived. She closed poignantly, "I'm going in peace and my suffering is over. Never think it was because I lacked strength or courage. God wanted me with him. I know my legacy will always be remembered. Until the next life, I love you all." Community response and funeral. Camilla's funeral took place on July 23rd at the Parque Gramado Cemetery in Americana, São Paulo, with attendees asked to wear light or colorful clothing instead of black, following her wishes for a celebration of life rather than mourning. Rodeo fans, country music artists, and fellow influencers flooded social media with condolences, sharing stories of her warmth, optimism, and influence. Organizations connected to the rodeo community highlighted her as a beacon of bravery, often calling her influence more meaningful than any title. Timeline of a short illuminating life. December 2002, Camilla Trevisol is born in Brazil, exact date unspecified. 2016, diagnosed with bone cancer, malignant femur tumor, after a soccer injury. September 2017, declared cancer-free after remission. 2023, Ewing sarcoma diagnosed. Second battle begins. 2024, Crown de Rainha Inspiração at Jaguariúna Rodeo Festival. Early mid-2025, shares treatment updates and life reflections online. July 23, 2025, passes away at age 22. Family publishes her final letter and fulfills her funeral wishes. Legacy and lasting impact. Camilla Trevisol's legacy is defined not by her illness but by her spirit. In just 22 years, she became a symbol of courage and authenticity, openly navigating childhood cancer and a later recurrence with dignity. Earned her place as the Rainha Inspiração at top rodeo festivals in Brazil, emblematic titles reserved for those who motivate and uplift. Used her influence proactively raising awareness of bone cancer, mental health, and medical disparities, especially among young people. Offered countless messages of hope. Live fully, never give up, don't think negative, guiding others even through her own end. Proposed cultural change in funeral grieving, choosing colorful attire, celebrating life over mourning, reflecting her vision of ending suffering in peace, not despair. Left a digital memorial, requesting her Instagram remain online so others could continue to learn from her journey and feel her presence. Understanding Ewing sarcoma, a rare and aggressive foe. Ewing sarcoma primarily affects children and young adults. It originates in bones such as the femur, pelvis, ribs, or spine, and aggressively metastasizes if not caught early. Its symptoms often begin with pain or swelling, and treatment protocols involve intense chemotherapy, surgery, and sometimes radiation. Despite remission, the cancer may recur years later, as tragically happened in Camilla's case. Camilla's open documentation of the side effects, hair loss, fatigue, emotional strain, helped to break stigmas and brought much-needed attention to the rare disease. Final reflections. Camilla Trevisol lived a brief but shining life. Her journey from a painful diagnosis at 13 to riding in rodeos, sharing stages with Brazilian musical artists, receiving titles of inspiration, and using her platform to help others, is nothing short of remarkable. She turned adversity into advocacy, and each post she shared became a lesson in purpose. Her farewell message wasn't a goodbye, but a final affirmation. She fulfilled her mission. Her suffering ended, but her spirit lives on through her words, her causes, and the legacy of empowerment she left behind. Though she left too soon, Camilla showed us how to face life with courage, how to live fully, how to inspire others even in difficult times, and perhaps most importantly, how to say goodbye with love, peace, and hope for what lies next. Thank you for taking a moment to remember these incredible lives with us. If their stories moved you, help keep their legacy alive. Like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe for more tributes that honor the voices, faces, and souls who've shaped our world. Drop a comment below, and let us know who left a mark on your heart. Gone but never forgotten.